Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey. So listen, I know I've been saying I was coming, but I needed to get this off because I know tomorrow I'm going to be busy with this Diddy stuff. So I didn't listen to this and I thought I would record it. And who pop in, and who don't. And for the ones who gonna listen to it later, please don't come into my comment section telling me about Candace. Right now, I like her perspective. And it's in line with what I think and how I feel. So please don't tell me nothing about her and your prior experience. Please. Please. Yeah. Excuse me. Because when you do that, I think you're a hater. So shout out to Candace Owens. She is connecting dots. She's doing okay with me so far. Enough that it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Let me take my medicine. And I'm trying to get it in. How about that? Let's go.
Okay, I need you guys locked in.
Okay.
Because things are becoming increasingly interesting, okay? Yesterday, the FBI made a rather curious announcement. They announced that they were going to cut ties with the ADL, right? You know what the ADL is, the Anti-Defamation League. And the reasons, well, because they had listed Charlie Kirk and his organization, TPUSA, to be extremist. Everybody's an extremist according to the ADL. But I want you guys to know that this is not a subtle announcement. We need to unpack this announcement.
Okay.
Because I don't care what side of the aisle that you are on, you need to understand that the ADL is not, nor has it ever been, what it purports to be, okay? Purports to be, we're just looking out and hit ties with the ADL, right? You know what the ADL is, the Anti-Defamation League. And the reasons, well, because they had listed Charlie and his organization, TPUSA, to be extremist. Everybody's an extremist according to the ADL. But I want you guys to know that this is not a subtle announcement. We need to unpack this announcement.
Just like with Trump.
That you are on.
Just like with Trump. You know, anytime something happens, it's the radical left. Until he find out that they are right. Big Trump supporters. Right? I mean, whoa, radical. So, yeah, I can dig it. Yeah, but he ain't said nothing else about that Portland guy, huh? Been quiet as a church house. Oh, that's why he created another situation in the scenario. I mean, have you not noticed yet that it's kind of like YouTube, y'all? Listen, for real. it it it's almost like same different people, same situation, kind of. You know, just like UK, the synagogue. That just happened in Portland. Somebody ran into the church. Ain't that the same thing? Same blueprint, almost. Different set of people. Yeah. Stay woke. And this is right after the peace deal, allegedly, that he had with BB. Yeah. Okay. Let me get this set up. Let's go.
Need to understand that the ADL is not, nor has it ever been, what it purports to be, okay? Purports to be, we're just looking out and hate speech and extremism. No. The reality is the ADL was born out of a Jewish Freemason organization known as B'nai B'rith. Now, if you're on my book club, you know this, but Sigmund Freud was a member of B'nai B'rith. We were discussing, we're reading right now the book, The Assault on Truth, and Sigmund Freud is very relevant.
The
You have to learn the
Assault
history
on
of Sigmund
Truth.
Freud He's in all of our schools, all of our universities, taught as a hero, the history of the psychoanalytic movement. Look, the reality is, him and all of his homies were covering up for incestuous child abuse. That is a fact, okay? They can't wipe that stain away.
It's a
Quite
pattern.
literally, the way that they did this was through the mechanism of gaslighting. That's what he is the father of, public gaslighting, okay? That's what modern psychology is. They moved to instead diagnose people who were being abused, right? They were using their credentials, I'm a this, I'm a that, to make people, maybe the wider public, believe that their gaslighting was actually legitimate. That is what the book, The Assault on Truth, unpacks. It is therefore a must read because you have to realize how horrific the crimes were that were being committed that they were covering for. So Sigmund Freud was in B'nai B'rith, and the ADL was born out of B'nai B'rith. Why? Well, because they put the organization together to defend a pedophile and a murderer. His name is Leo Frank. Leo Frank was an unbelievably wealthy Jewish factory owner down in Atlanta. And this is 1913. It's very relevant. You should know this happened in 1913. And this is the American South. You know
So
what was
this
going
is
on
a
there.
cycle.
And
So this protecting, gaslighting for pedos, it's a cycle. It's a I don't want to do a nationality, but it's a curse. It's like a generational curse. I mean, they say they are related somehow, right? I guess we are, but so it's like a generational curse. It's a pattern. So it's a frat. Okay. Because it most definitely is a pattern.
One steak just for my family, and it's the one we make at Paleo Valley. What if I told you?
But that makes sense. And let me say this, because majority of the time when there is some, that family secret, the uncle or the brother who, molested, somebody in the family, and then, the family don't talk about it and they sweep it up under the rug and they kind of cover the lie or gaslight it, and the person is always lying and they come up with all these different stories, to justify it. Okay. So I guess the covering of the lie and the sleeping of the rug is modern day gaslighting. Wow. I mean, I just never connected the two. I just never kind of understood why there was always protection, it appeared, for the predator. And whoever was being violated, there was always an excuse. I never was able to understand that family dynamic, if that makes sense. I never understood it. And I think self-consciously, I'm going to leave that alone. But I never connected that. If the little girl was molested by the uncle, it was like, well, what did you have on? Or you must have been at beef. What did you do? I mean, I did not tell you. I mean, it's always something. I guess that's why I'm just such a big advocate for the victim. It's like, no excuses, no gaslighting it, none of that. And he looked like, I shouldn't say that, but he looked like something was wrong with him. They should have got him some help. Y'all hit the like button. I know I'm up late, but I wanted to go ahead and get this done. I wanted to hear what she had to say, especially because people were in my comment section trying to get me, you can't believe she's not credible. She's not, shut up. She is to me. Now, until she do something or say something that I'm like, no, I know how to remove myself. I don't need help. I'm really a smart person. Really, I am. Really good at this. Okay, let's go. But hit the like button. Pop him in his eye. Like, just double tap him in his eye. Yeah, and get the likes up. Let's go.
Leo Frank was an unbelievably wealthy Jewish factory owner down in Atlanta. And this is 1913. It's very relevant. You should know this happened in 1913. And this is the American South. You know what was going on there. And Mary Fagan was a 13-year-old girl who worked at his pencil factory. She was found brutally raped. Okay, she's a Catholic girl, by the way. I want to say that. She was a young Catholic girl. And Leo Frank, even with all of his money, all of his connections, the best lawyers that money could buy, connections all the way to the Supreme Court, he was so guilty of what happened that despite the fact that he tried to pin it on a poor black janitor, even in the segregated South, where people were just like, hey, give us any reason and we will go lynch a black person, the racist segregated South, they still found him guilty, okay? They still found Leo Frank guilty, and so much has been written to try to obscure this still. They are still trying to defend Leo Frank. What happened then is that his buddies over at the Freemasonic Lodge, B'nai B'rith, assembled the ADL to gaslight the public. No, Leo Frank wasn't guilty. Look what happened after. He was lynched for what he did to Mary Fagan. He is actually a victim of anti-Semitism. That's it. He wasn't guilty. I'm sure maybe the black guy did it in 1913 Atlanta, and everyone conspired to instead attack a wealthy factory owner. Like I said, to this day, they are using those mechanisms to try to gaslight us and to pretend that Leo Frank was really the victim in this tragedy. It's utterly demented. I will never let it stand. He killed Mary Fagan. He is still guilty of that crime, no matter how much the ADL tries to obscure that. And by the way, if you want to learn more, you should learn more about Mary Fagan's murder. I can point you guys, there's a book called The Murder of Little Mary Fagan, and it is written by a relative of hers, and that relative's name is also Mary Fagan. You should read the details of what happened 100 years ago. You should read the facts around it, read the case documents, learn about the brutal rape and the murder and what happened thereafter, because so much has been written since to try to obscure those facts. So go to the family member as a source. Do that in your own spare time. In fact, maybe I should add it to the book club list. Anyways, the reason why I'm telling you that is because there is it really is a very crucial element of our history that you need to come to terms with, right? The modern media machine, all of these journalists who lie and gaslight, you're seeing it right now, what they're writing about me, it's insane. They are students of effectively the psychoanalytic community. Let's gaslight and then we will diagnose. Gaslight and diagnose. Seeing it happen in real time pertaining to the Charlie Kirk case.
So that's what they're teaching. I think I've noticed that. I think I just kind of labeled it, as a narcissist. But now I'm realizing that the narcissists are paying top dollars to get people to gaslight in the media. So kind of like oh Lord, I cannot stand saying this man's name. Netai, him, BB. I saw that he was paying like $7,000. $7,000 to get people to run with his narrative. So when he was talking about changing the media and fighting it and taking over, yeah, it is to post and run with fake narratives, propaganda. And I guess when you're paying top dollar, the gaslighting becomes a lot of people's reality. But I think it's easy to forget that it's a lie because they're paying you so well. If that makes any type of sense. Hey, Joanne. But let's go.
We watched him be murdered, and then we watched the feds lie to us, rape and the murder, and what happened thereafter, because so much has been written since to try to obscure those facts. So go to the family member as a source. Do that in your own spare time. In fact, maybe I should add it to the book club list. Anyways, the reason why I'm telling you that is because there is it really is a very crucial element of our history that you need to come to terms with, right? The modern media machine, all of these journalists who lie and gaslight, you're seeing it right now, what they're writing about me, it's insane. They are students of effectively the psychoanalytic community. Let's gaslight and then we will diagnose. Gaslight and diagnose. Seeing it happen in real time pertaining to the Charlie Kirk case.
And
Watched him.
Candace, before Charlie, it was the Epstein files. A lot of gaslighting there too, right? To cover up, to change the narrative. I mean, a lot has been created since then to make the Epstein files go away. A lot. A lot. It's like, what will be uncovered? I mean, really? If we can just be honest about the movements of the White House, the Foreign House, I mean, it's just a lot of movement. A lot of lying. It's like, it cannot come out. We got to change history. There's a lot of that's going on right now. A lot of changing history, removing the facts and replacing it with propaganda. We got to stay woke. We have to stop it. We have to call it what it is when we see it. A lot of smoke and mirrors. Stay woke, people. We have to start denouncing it when we see it. We have to stop going along with the lie. Because at some point, one of those lies are going to be really directed toward you and your family. And then you're going to want the truth to come out. And that's not how that works. Stand on the truth now. Period. Regardless of who it is. Come on, y'all. Let's go.
Murdered. And then we watched the feds lie to us rather fanatically. The text messages, I think, were really the what is going on. And now they're yelling at us for noticing. Like, we are all being abused right now by the press, right? They're trying to spin it. No, I can't believe people have questions. The conspiracies are so bad. These text messages were totally legit. Anybody who wants to investigate it further.
I was stuck with one game analysis per day. Now I've been limited slash reviews. Plus my browser just played
investigate it later, but not right now.
Crazy. Oh, just totally crazy. Yeah. We're all clinically insane. We should probably consult a physician. How dare we? It's inappropriate. Candace, they always say this, she must be suffering from postpartum psychosis. Okay, whatever you want to call the thing is that I'm suffering from when you watch your friend catch a bullet in the neck, you can call it that. Diagnose it if you need to. Anyways, you guys, the time.
Now, I'm going to be honest. I think she has more sense now than she ever had before. I mean, you know, call it what it is, but she was brainwashed at one point. If we're going to be totally honest. But once your light bulb comes on, your light bulb is on, period. It doesn't matter. Thank God it comes on. Sometimes it just don't come on. Sometimes people are just blinded. That's the problem I think happened with Charlie. And it sounds like Megyn Kelly, and I don't follow none of them. But when your light bulb comes on, the deceiver has a problem with that. Then you become, once you just stand solid on facts and principles, oh no, you're useless now. We can't manipulate. We can't squeeze it in. We can't convince. Oh, well, no. Yeah, and now they know too much. So what are we going to do with them? Oh, okay. Okay.
Up. Now, it should unnerve you with that little bit of history that despite their well-documented founding, the ADL is so powerful of an organization that they have been directing the FBI for years, okay? They label people who tell the truth extremists. They put them on a list. I think it effectively works as a hit list. And then they direct and work with the FBI in partnership to go after those extremists, okay? That is a very weird relationship, a strange relationship, an immoral relationship, and a corrupt relationship. Now, I want you to know that I learned that recently, last year, that both the left and the right work with the ADL. Okay, there was this lie that's told publicly. I believed it, that it's just the left. It's all left leaning. No, 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 no. They work with both the left and the right. The neocons on the right side work arm in arm with the ADL and feed them names, primarily of anyone, I should say, who is an enemy to the state of Israel. So currently, you have Trump people who I guess are trying to save face for their remarkable lack of curiosity as it pertains to who assassinated Charlie Kirk, who loved them and worked did whatever he could to support their administration. They're trying to save face and pretend that they're upset, you know, like, oh, we're going to do something. It's not okay that this happened. Look over here, right? Oh, look over here. The ADL put Charlie Kirk on a list. Now that he's dead, we demand post-justice. Kash Patel's doing that. He's acting right now. He's pretending that he's delivering some form of justice. I think Elon Musk tweeted about Charlie Kirk and TPUSA being on the list, and then it kind of caught fire, and this became the new conservative talking point. The ADL must pay for that. And sure enough, the FBI director, Kash Patel, announced yesterday that this is over. Yes, the ADL was training FBI agents and sharing intelligence in partnership with the FBI. The FBI and the ADL had a partnership, sharing intel. They were training agents, and he says no more. Okay, he wrote this in a tweet. James Comey wrote love letters to the ADL and embedded FBI agents with them, a group that ran disgraceful ops spying on Americans. That era is over. The FBI won't partner with political fronts masquerading as watchdogs. Now, if you're on the right, you're supposed to go, yay, justice served. If you're on the left, you're maybe going to be happy that the ADL responded very graciously to this. They issued a statement immediately. They said, as we prepare to observe the holiest day of the year on the Jewish calendar, that's just like, I guess they're a victim somehow, we have seen the statement from the FBI Director Patel regarding the FBI's relationship. ADL has deep respect for the Federal Bureau of Investigation and law enforcement officers at all levels across the country who work tirelessly every single day to protect all Americans, regardless of their ancestry, religion, ethnicity, faith, political affiliation, or any other point of difference. In light of an unprecedented surge of anti-Semitism, we remain more committed than ever to our core purpose to protect the Jewish people. You should know that all of that you just heard, okay, is BS, okay? It's slave slop. We are the slaves, and they are serving us slop right now. The illusion that things are changing, the illusion that it's left versus right, or that it's Jewish Americans versus everybody else. Hey, Jewish Americans, if you're watching this, you want to wake up to the ADL, is not your friend at all. They don't care about what happens to you. If you need more proof, you should know that they curiously removed the Azov battalion. They're carving swastikas on their head, Ukrainians murdering people. They removed them from the hate list. Candace Owens is on there, though. I'm sure you guys go to bed and you're worried about Candace Owens and not the people that are carving freaking swastikas on their head and murdering people, okay? They don't care. That's all. This is all just slop. Left versus right illusion, whatever it is. But the more important question that I want to get to is why now? Why are they putting on this performative bit right now? Well, yesterday, I made an offhand remark about the ADL and the FBI sharing an office in Connecticut. Now, I know this because I'm from Connecticut, so there's no way to try to obscure that fact. Back in 2023, actually, a Catholic investigator revealed this and shared it. He addressed it in a series of tweets. Kyle Undercover wrote, I gathered property records for the 19 different states that the ADL has a regional office established. The report reveals that in the state of Connecticut, the ADL shares an office space with the FBI. They also share an office space with the United Nations in New York. Now, same building, across the hall, whatever. That's a fact, and it makes sense. You shouldn't be that shocked when they're owning the fact that they share information. It's easier to share information if you're sharing an office space, right? Anyways, he goes on and he writes, after reviewing the 19 ADL offices, we can see an alarming trend. 63% of the ADL's regional offices are located within various banking institutions. 42% are located within various law firms, ranging from immigration to criminal law. You should keep that in mind for what we're going to talk about later on the show. And 10% are located in Jewish institutions. So you get the point. Why am I telling you this? Because after I made that offhand remark yesterday, I received a rather stunning tip, which I have been able to corroborate, that out of all of the FBI boroughs in the United States, regarding which there are 55 main boroughs and over 350 satellite boroughs, the FBI sent the specific Connecticut borough down to UVU after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. To help investigate the assassination, okay, let's just look at the map again. They decided to go upwards on the East Coast and to send the field office from that borough to UVU. I'm wondering why they did that. I'd like an answer. We're probably not going to get it. We're not getting answers on anything. I wonder what moved them to send that particular borough, okay, down to UVU. It just feels like you got a lot around you, a lot of options. It wasn't exactly like necessary for you to do that. Charlie Kirk gets assassinated, and yeah, that person provided proof. They said we are 1,000% certain. I said I'm going to need to see proof. Unbelievably, I'd like to know why they did that, right? I'd like to know why suddenly now Kash Patel is making a strong statement against the ADL. All of that just feels a little too close to comfort. And by the way, how do you separate when you're just across the hall? Let's just think that you guys are not speaking to each other anymore. Are we supposed to be this dumb? Okay, completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Wanted to share that. Okay. Anyways, jumping back into more oddities that occurred on that day.
Okay, sorry y'all. I'm gonna have to back it up a little bit. Hold on.
Now I
had to step away. Can I back it up a little bit, please? There we go. Oh.
It's easier to share information if you're sharing an office space, right? Anyways, he goes on and he writes, removed the Azov battalion. They're carving swastikas on their head. Ukrainians murdering people. They removed them from the hate list. Candace Owens is on there, though. I'm sure you guys go to bed and you're worried about Candace Owens and not the people that are carving freaking swastikas on their head and murdering people. Okay? They don't care. That's all. This is all just slop. Left versus right illusion, whatever it is. But the more important question that I want to get to is why now? Why are they putting on this performative bit right now? Well, yesterday I made an offhand remark about the ADL and the FBI sharing an office in Connecticut. Now, I know this because I'm from Connecticut, so there's no way to try to obscure that fact. Back in 2023, actually, a Catholic investigator revealed this and shared it. He addressed it in a series of tweets. Kyle Undercover wrote, I gathered property records for the 19 different states that the ADL has a regional office established. The report reveals that in the state of Connecticut, the ADL shares an office space with the FBI. They also share an office space with the United Nations in New York. Now, same building, across the hall, whatever. That's a fact, and it makes sense. You shouldn't be that shocked.
They're neighbors.
They're owning the fact that they share information. It's easier to share information if you're sharing an office space, right? Anyways, he goes on and he writes, after reviewing the 19 ADL offices, we can see an alarming trend. 63% of the ADL's regional offices are located within various banking institutions. 42% are located within various law firms, ranging from immigration to criminal law. You should keep that in mind for what we're going to talk about later on the show. And 10% are located in Jewish institutions. So you get the point. Why am I telling you this? Because after I made that offhand remark yesterday, I received a rather stunning tip, which I have been able to corroborate, that out of all of the FBI boroughs in the United States, regarding which there are 55 main boroughs and over 350 satellite boroughs, the FBI sent the specific Connecticut borough down to UVU after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. To help investigate the assassination, okay, let's just look at the map again. They decided to go upwards on the East Coast and to send the field office from that borough to UVU. I'm wondering why they did that. I'd like an answer. We're probably not going to get it. We're not getting answers on anything. I wonder what moved them to send that particular borough, okay, down to UVU. It just feels like you got a lot around you, a lot of options. It wasn't exactly like necessary for you to do that. Charlie Kirk gets assassinated, and yeah, that person provided proof. They said we are 1,000% certain. I said I'm going to need to see proof. Unbelievably, I'd like to know why they did that, right? I'd like to know why suddenly now Kash Patel is making a strong statement against the ADL. All of that just feels a little too close to comfort. And by the way, how do you separate when you're just across the hall? Let's just think that you guys are not speaking to each other anymore. Are we supposed to be this dumb? Okay.
Yeah, you are.
Completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Wanted to share that. Okay. Anyways, jumping back into more oddities that occurred on that day, despite having these federal agents from Connecticut. Now, I have presented to you just thus far, right, that a lot of these witnesses that immediately spoke out to say, here's what happened, here's how many shots, here's what I heard, that they had strange connections to the government or like weren't from UVU at all, were coming from overseas, didn't really make sense. I was trying to understand that.
It's the pattern.
And yesterday, of course, we were trying to figure out who was this mysterious woman that was allegedly seen helping the shooter change clothes. I got that one tip from an individual, completely unrelated, said, yes, there was footage of a person helping the shooter change clothes. And then suddenly we were able to discern, at the very least, that someone in the Broderick Lyman family certainly acknowledges that there was a woman, at the very least, who she suspected could have been an accomplice. She didn't say anything about the person changing clothes, but we can watch that clip again to hear what she says.
If you time how long it took him to get from that little part over to here, was way longer than it should have been. So I wondered if the girl had given him stuff, like if there is an accomplice. Sorry, you're filming.
And it said right here, that picture from Sam's across the street, he was right here.
Yep.
Okay, so we received a couple of tips pertaining to who that woman might have been, according to...
It said right here, that picture from Sam's across the street, he was right here.
Yep.
Okay, so we received a couple of tips pertaining to who that woman might have been, according to rumor circulating around Orem. Now, I want to be very clear. When we say that this is a rumor, I mean that you should take this information with a grain of salt. We cannot present it at face value because we don't have the footage, right? I cannot say this is a fact. I can say that this lead became more interesting to me and that the FBI should clarify things. It's that simple. Let us see all the footage.
Right.
But they don't seem even remotely interested in trying to help us clarify anything. Anyways, the name that we had received was, it turned out, somebody that actually provided the only eyewitness testimony of having seen the shooter up close, limping. So it's possible, just to run the other side of things, that this woman captured both of them walking back to back and she just was walking near him and she had nothing to do with helping him change. That's all possible, and you should consider that possibility. We don't have answers. But there's something else that's interesting about her. Like I said, the testimony that she provided is interesting, and she is the only person that saw the shooter limping up close. And her name, and we know this because she spoke to the news, they all did, is Olivia Robertson Cobb Bishop. Let's listen to her testimony now.
Okay.
I kind of realized the type of street I was on, a little bit more secluded, you know.
Olivia Bishop retraces her steps where she came face to face with Charlie Kirk's alleged killer.
Just looking over seeing that he was limping, kind of being like, oh, okay. And then long black shirt, kind of thinking that's kind of weird. It's kind of super hot outside.
Bishop says something seemed a little off.
I did look over at him, and he was kind of like that was his face, just kind of like, not a smile or anything.
From the expressionless demeanor, long sleeve shirt during a hot summer day, to the limp.
It's kind of odd. I don't know. Like, now that I think about it, it's just very, like, chilling to me.
Chilling after reading charging documents online and seeing this video of Robinson walking away from UVU after Kirk was shot. That's when she realized she'd been only feet away from the accused killer. Now, she questions whether she could have done more.
Had I seen the imprint of a rifle down his leg, if I had looked at him a little longer, then immediately after that happened, would I have thought back to him, you know?
So he
and
wasn't
been able
limping.
to, like, alert authorities quicker.
Bishop realizes there's nothing she could have done differently.
But just to have been, like, an eyewitness to him on his way there is just shocking to me.
I gotta say, when I saw that, I was actually kind of giddy because I was like, finally, it looks like a college student from UVU who is speaking to the news. That's great. And of course, I then had to wonder what she was studying. And it turns out, no, she doesn't go to UVU. I don't know. A lot of these people were not available that day. But what she does for a living is quite interesting because there's an emerging pattern. And for whatever reason, nobody who spoke to the press said what their connections were. It turns out that she works for the Orem Police Department. She's a record specialist.
Oh, yeah,
I should
but so
tell you
she
guys
should
that
have been
you're
way
kind of
more alert.
unbelievably, in August, you're going to believe this, they kind of lost a lot of people that were working at the department. There's a Facebook post, people that were retiring, a lot of changes that were happening. I don't know when she started working there, but she works at the Orem Police Department, and we're hearing a lot of stuff about some plausible corruption that might be going on there. And I just said, wow, okay. Curiously, she also purports to be a close witness to when Charlie got shot. And I'm wondering, if you work for the Orem Police Department, what were you doing going to a Charlie Kirk event in the middle of the day? Like, assuming that's a full-time job, Charlie spoke on a Wednesday. What were you doing there at all, actually? Is this like the longest lunch break ever? Meeting up with some friends, she says. Meeting up with some friends, okay. Another thing that we were able to learn is that she met up with her husband. Like, how are all of these people just allowed to leave work to hear Charlie Kirk speak?
It absorbs a lot of shock.
I'm interested. So I reached out, obviously, today, called the records office, sent her a text. We were able to find her number. She doesn't want to speak about anything she says.
He had to be young
She just wanted to speak right there, give her testimony.
to jump from that roof like that.
She gave the appropriate information to the appropriate authorities. So that there, beyond that, is just going to be a dead end. But I'd like to take a broader look at our witness tree, because it's growing, right? It's growing, our witness tree. We've got Tiffany Barker, of course. She's with the nieces. Her sister was Phil Lyman's running mate. She spoke to Good Morning America in the wee hours of the morning after. Phil Lyman, of course, our guy, he really does not like me at all. He wants me to know that he thinks I'm shady, that I'm an accomplice.
Yeah, that's gaslighting, child. Don't fall for that.
Governor in 2024. He's featured George Zinn on his website at that time. Spoke to Alex Jones, Fox News, News Nation, really anybody that would have him. Now we have Olivia Bishop. She works for the Orem Police Records Specialist, and she works as the Orem Police Records Specialist, and she spoke to local news. Who else do we have here? Well, let me show you this other video, which gets interesting, okay? Check out this USA Today video of people speaking about what they heard and what they saw. Take a listen.
I'm gonna get a prototype. The hardest thing is to get started.
It's the ideas. It sounds like lightning. It was so loud. I thought the shooter was right there in the crowd, and apparently he wasn't. Apparently he was far off. Everybody got down, and I instantly just started praying for Charlie Kirk. And the girl I was next to, she was bawling because she had seen it. She had seen the graphic imagery of the bullet piercing his neck and opening his neck up, and I can't imagine what it was like to see that.
I actually was just walking up. I was going to the event with a friend, and so I was in the back of the crowd still walking to get closer when I heard the pop of a gunshot, and people started screaming and running. So I took a knee, Just out of habit from being in the Marine Corps. And
So okay, so now they're running. Okay, because I thought it was odd. I watched the guy late last night, and I'm so tired. Yeah, and he was analyzing the part with the people
He
on the
wasn't.
floor.
Apparently, he was far off. Everybody got down.
Yeah, they got down, and I just felt like, why is everybody dropping down instead of running? Typically people just break out and run, but it looks like to me at first everybody kind of did the wave and everybody just dropped. It's like
It was so loud. I thought the shooter was right there in the crowd, and apparently he wasn't. Apparently he
it was
was
like they
far
was
off.
waiting
Everybody
for.
got down, and I instantly just started praying for Charlie Kirk. And the girl I was with next to, she was bawling because she had seen it. She had seen the graphic imagery of the bullet piercing his neck and opening his neck up, and I can't imagine what it was like to see that.
I actually was just walking up. I was going to the event with a friend, and so I was in the back of the crowd still walking to get closer when I heard the pop of a gunshot and people started screaming and running. So I took a knee, just out of habit from being in the Marine Corps, and people were still screaming and running, and I just decided to look for the shooter wherever they might be. But people just kept clearing out.
Basically, I just heard a shot, and I saw him falling towards the left, so I knew he got shot on the collarbone or the neck right here, but I didn't see bleed immediately. I just saw and I heard, and we all crouched down, and I wish there was a better security. I was a little surprised when I walked into the courtyard and there wasn't any metal detector. There were securities around the building, but it wasn't really solid.
So that was the
Okay,
only
so to show you who those
person.
individuals.
One person had a gun or drew a gun, right? Him. I'm assuming he had a gun in his hand. He is the only person that pulled a gun or raised a gun. And that was to back the people off from as they put him in the car. But as the shot went off, he had security in front of him, some behind him. And it's what I watched last night. Like the guy in front of the tent, big guy. Even when the shot went off, he didn't budge. He didn't budge. I'm like, what? Huh? How are you security? And when the shot went, you got the two guys behind you giving signals, and then the guy in front of the people did not budge when the shot went off. Now, if I don't find that odd, and then after he was shot and hit, no one still didn't pull out a gun. No one pulled out to see where the shot came from to return. I mean, how did they know the shooter was not going to open fire on the crowd? Yeah. But this is the only one. This guy right here is the only guy that appeared to have drew a gun.
Security. I was a little surprised when I walked into the courtyard and there wasn't any metal detector. There were securities around the building, but it wasn't really solid.
Okay, so to show you who those individuals are, a lot of software engineers. We can pull back up Emmanuel Urier. You saw his name there again. We're pulling people that spoke to the press publicly. We're not revealing any information here, but he works for Domo Incorporated. His history is that he is a software engineer, a technical advisor. His name is German. in origin. I'd like to know a little bit more. Also, when I look up these people, by the way, none of them have reached out to me. Like from the minute that this all happened, I asked for information. And for whatever reason, these people were very anxious to speak to the press
But not
right
you.
after. But then we're like, you know what? We're not gonna speak to anybody else about that. Same for Gurno owner. We covered this. He was with Phil Lyman's nephew, cousin. We learned was a software engineer from Austria. So Austria, Germany, okay. Featured in Shaner's Instagram. And that guy, Scott Robbins, that you saw looking like a college kid, well, he was also a gubernatorial candidate. He ran for governor of Utah in 2024. Nobody mentioned this. I guess all of these USA Today or AP, nobody asked them like who they were, if they were college students, and for whatever reason, everybody that they spoke to wasn't that. We will continue to grow this witness tree.
Wow.
Robbie Hild, we've put a TBD on because we're getting crazy information on him. We're calling him Mr. Worldwide over here. Okay, we've got Robbie Hild in the Cayman Islands. We've got Robbie Hild in Spain. We've got Robbie Hild all over. And so that's going to take some time. We need to be more thorough in that, and we will have more on Robbie Hild on Monday. Anyways, guys, this is
I think that's that guy. I think that's that guy when it first happened, and somebody was, I have it somewhere. I just don't know where it's at. And they were saying that it was his boyfriend, and they kind of made mention that it was in transition, and somebody had went to school with them. And I had the picture of him. And then the next day, they came out with Tyler. The next morning, hold on, I'm gonna be no good in the morning. Hold on, let's AunTeaFee go into the archive for a minute. Just to look at the thumbnail, because it would be a thumbnail, right? And I'm glad that I didn't, I don't think I did, change the thumbnail once they said that it was someone else. Because I was like, well, wait a minute. But hold on. Since we know he will be, whoever this guy is, I think that this is the boyfriend that is transitioning, that plays with the look, that sometimes look feminine and sometimes I guess not. Hold on. This one, I don't know if I can make this bigger. Hold on. Y'all see that? Do y'all remember that? I don't even know how far it got out in the media. But this right here, this guy right here. When this first came out, this is who they were saying that it was. Hold on. Okay, so Charlie Kirk. I don't know why, if that's the name. I think this is who they was trying to say it was at first. But the person, and it was the lips. So I'm going to research. I'm going to go back and look at this video. I'll get back to where we were. Yeah, let me pull this down so I will double check it tomorrow and not forget. Okay, let me get back to where we were. Because that guy she's talking about reminds me of who they said it was in the beginning. And then they changed it to Charlie. But can y'all please double tap the screen on the phone? If you're on your phone listening, double tap it so I can I need 40 likes. And if you're on your computer, just hit the 3 dots of the thumb up. It's just like thumbs up. Or double tap your phone. Let's go. I am sleepy.
And read some of our sponsors. You guys know I love Riverbend Ranch. Their steaks are phenomenal. They really are just phenomenal. Check out and you'll get $20 off your first order. Scrolls for you. What I love most about Comment is that it can take weeknight way around. Check it out at PPLX. But we wondered. We knew we were still being lied to about that assassination. /Candace. Okay, so it's looking like an operation, right? We are right now living through the JFK assassination. We weren't there for that. The majority of us weren't there for that. I wasn't there for that. But we wondered. We knew we were still being lied to about that assassination.
And now they are saying that the shooter was right in front of him, was driving him around, put his gun on the shoulder and shot him. It's like, oh my goodness. It's just so much we're finding out now. We've been lied to. Oh my goodness. The man on the moon. The astronaut. I mean, you know. That was it for me. I don't believe nothing. But we saw him on the moon. Yeah, right.
I just wondered, like AJ did, Allowed yesterday. Did all of the homies of JFK just try to cover it up? I think the answer might be yes. I think he was surrounded. I think he was infiltrated. And then they got rid of him because of wrong think. He had the wrong ideas.
No, he was questioning.
Yes, I think he was surrounded. I think he was infiltrated. And then they /Candace.
Okay.
Okay, so it's looking like an operation, right? We are right now living through the JFK assassination. We weren't there for that. The majority of us weren't there for that. I wasn't there for that. But we wondered. We knew we were still being lied to about that assassination. And I just wondered, like AJ did, Allowed yesterday. Did all of the homies of JFK just try to cover it up? I think the answer might be yes. I think he was surrounded. I think he was infiltrated. And then they got rid of him because of wrong think. He had the wrong ideas that perhaps maybe every foreign nation should register under FARA. Anyways, how this works is that then you have to kind of put together like a Warren Commission, right? JFK, the Warren Commission, a complete and utter farce to pretend like the government's taking it seriously and investigating. Well, if Tyler Robinson's going to be our patsy, and I do want to be clear here, I'm not saying that Tyler Robinson is guilty of nothing, right? It's his gun. There's weird stuff going on there. I don't believe he pulled the trigger. But if they're going to make that stick, then you got to have a lawyer that's working for the prosecution, right? Well, that's what's going on. Recently, Elizabeth Lane went on the Redacted podcast, and she discussed how the prosecutor is picking his opponent in the Tyler Robinson case. Take a listen to her explain that.
The prosecutor.
Investigative journalist Elizabeth Lane is not giving up on this story. She's been on the ground in Utah connecting the CIA dots, the 3-letter agency dots and connections, and she joins us now. Elizabeth, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Clayton. I looked at Tyler Robinson's case and I thought, well, why don't I get this guy a lawyer? Because that at least puts me near him so I can understand and control the process. And this is times where they couldn't find the guy a lawyer and they were kind of scrambling around to figure out who was going to be his lawyer. And I started approaching different firms in Utah, trying to get him a lawyer for pro bono. So I walked up to one of the most reputable firms in Utah and I asked them if they were willing to represent Tyler Robinson for pro bono case. And I was extremely surprised what I got from them. First and foremost, they were like, yes, we're absolutely on this because we don't believe that what happened to Charlie Kirk was remotely a case of just a single, crazy kid going up and shooting the guy in the neck. Like, we don't believe that, so we are more than willing to represent him pro bono. So I was like, great. So we started the process, and what happened is we realized that we needed lawyers who are actually certified with death penalty, so their certifications didn't live up to that. But there's another interesting thing. When I did find a lawyer that was certified to represent Tyler Robinson, obviously I needed a consent from Robinson's family and or Robinson himself, because he's actually not a minor. He can consent himself. Ironically, we were unable to get in touch with the parents, because as a lawyer you can't solicit clients, so it's illegal. So you can't just announce yourself that I'm going to represent Tyler Robinson.
Okay, I'm back. But we may just have to listen because I am out of juice and I have to keep it close to this fan so I can't prop it up. Okay, can you hear me? The ones that stay, can you hear me? Can you hear her? Can you hear me? Are you able to hear? What is this, Houston? Okay, let's get back.
Seriously investigating, well, if Tyler Robinson's going to be our patsy, I do want to be clear here, I'm not saying that Tyler Robinson is guilty of nothing.
Are y'all able to hear?
There's weird stuff going on there. I don't believe he pulled the trigger. But if they're going to make that stick, then you got to have a lawyer that's working for the prosecution, right? Well, that's what's going on. Recently, Elizabeth Lane went on the Redacted podcast, and she discussed how the prosecutor is picking his opponent in the Tyler Robinson case. Take a listen to her explain that.
Investigative journalist Elizabeth Lane
picking his opponent.
Story. She's been on the ground in Utah connecting the CIA dots, the three-letter agency dots and connections, and she joins us now. Elizabeth, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Clayton. I looked at Tyler Robinson's case and I thought, well, why don't I get this guy a lawyer? Because that at least puts me near him so I can understand and control the process. And this is times where they couldn't find the guy a lawyer and they were kind of scrambling around to figure out who was going to be his lawyer. And I started approaching different firms in Utah, trying to get him a lawyer for pro bono. So I walked up to one of the most reputable firms in Utah and I asked them if they were willing to represent Tyler Robinson for pro bono case. And I was extremely surprised what I got from them. First and foremost, they were like, yes, we're absolutely on this because we don't believe that what happened to Charlie Kirk was remotely a case of just a single, crazy kid going up and shooting the guy in the neck. Like, we don't believe that, so we are more than willing to represent him pro bono. So I was like,
why did somebody have to ask? Why didn't they just do it?
What happened is we realized that we needed lawyers who are actually certified with death penalty, so their certifications didn't live up to that. But there's another interesting thing. When I did find a lawyer that was certified to represent Tyler Robinson, obviously I needed a consent from Robinson's family and or Robinson himself, because he's actually not a minor. He can consent himself. Ironically, we were unable to get in touch with the parents, because as a lawyer you can't solicit clients, so it's illegal. So you can't just announce yourself that I'm going to represent Tyler Robinson. So I started doing that. So I got into this process and I asked my local lawyer firm, hey, what's the best way to go around here? Like, we need help to get the lawyer from New York who is certified to represent Tyler to get on the case. So he said, whatever you do, Elizabeth, do not get in touch with the firms in Utah that are the most powerful, because they are in on it with the state. No matter what happens, the side of the state. I did not listen to him, and I ended up calling one of the biggest firms in Utah just to ask for an advice. Like, what is the situation here? What can we do? They started screaming on the phone, and I was like, why do you even care? Like, you don't have a dog in this fight. Why are you so rude rude on the phone. So then I said, listen, there is a lawyer who's qualified and he's actually very famous in New York.
Wow.
Wants to represent this kid. All I need is a consent from Tyler Robinson to do so, and we think that you can help. To this, I got a very rude response that only SCORDIS is allowed to find a representation for
Only
Tyler
who?
Robinson. So SCORDIS is a guy who's running as a state prosecutor. So here's the problem with that. State prosecutor cannot be responsible to find a lawyer for a defendant. That's illegal. So,
Right, that they will be
Wow.
opponent.
yeah, that's what it seems like.
Wow.
And I've been wondering about because it seems like an open and shut case for any defense attorney because the government has presented such a crap case.
So,
Unless his attorney is a shill.
Yes. So what?
oh man, y'all, can y'all hear this?
As a state prosecutor, he's running. Everyone can look it up. It's on his website. So it's not quite illegal for him to find a lawyer for Tyler, but it would be illegal if he was a state prosecutor. But what it is, though, is highly unethical.
You ain't ever lied.
Unethical, and the reason why I wanted to show you that clip is because I've learned a lot over the last couple of years, and what I can tell you is that this gang that's running everything,
The gang.
they also are controlling the courts. That's how you get a prosecution against somebody that makes no sense. And why do you do that? Because typically you're hiding government's crimes, right? You want people to stop looking, you want people to stop asking questions. You're not just asking questions.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, we are implying here that everything you're telling us about the Tyler Robinson case makes no sense. But these people control the courts. And I gotta tell you another thing. I wanna be very clear. They even have figured out how to run a kangaroo court system, total kangaroo court system.
Not be responsible to find a lawyer.
Let me
for
hear
a
this
defendant.
again.
That's illegal. So,
Right, that they will be. They're choosing their own opponent.
Yeah, so it's
like you don't have a document.
it's
Why are you
staged.
so rude on the phone? So then I said, listen, there is a lawyer who's qualified and he's actually very famous in New York. Wants to represent this kid. All he needs is a consent from Tyler Robinson to do so, and we think that you can help. To this, I got a very rude response that only SCORDIS is allowed to find a representation for Tyler Robinson. So SCORDIS is a guy who's running as a state prosecutor. So here's the problem with that. State prosecutor cannot be responsible to find a lawyer for a defendant. That's illegal. So,
Right, that they will be. They're choosing their own opponent.
yeah, that's what it seems
And this
like.
is something that I've been wondering about because it seems like an open and shut case for any defense attorney because the government has presented such a crap case unless his attorney is a shill.
Yes, so what I know is that SCORDIS is running as a state prosecutor. He's running. Everyone can look it up. It's on his website. So it's not quite illegal for him to find a lawyer for Tyler, but it would be illegal if he was a state prosecutor. But what it is, though, is highly unethical.
Highly unethical, and the reason why I wanted to show you that clip is because I've learned a lot over the last couple of years, and what I can tell you is that this gang that's running everything, okay, they also are controlling the courts. That's how you get a prosecution against somebody that makes no sense. And why do you do that? Because typically you're hiding government's crimes, right? You want people to stop looking, you want people to stop asking questions. You're not just asking questions. Yeah, no, we are implying here that everything you're telling us about the Tyler Robinson case makes no sense. But these people control the courts. And I gotta tell you another thing. I wanna be very clear.
Oh wow.
They even have figured out how to run a kangaroo court system, total kangaroo court system, where judges do not have to follow the law. Okay, Ian Carroll was on my show speaking about this, pertaining to Justin Bieber.
Oh.
It is a fact. Arbitration courts, they get you to sign a contract, and you agree if you have an issue, go to arbitration court. Most people don't know what that means. Private court, where the judge does not have to follow the law. They can just say you're guilty. And when you get to that level, there's
Oh my God, what is the world coming to?
these players
This is crazy.
that work for the government and are willing to lie and cheat and steal, and it is because the government needs a prosecution, or you piss them off, and they need a conviction against you because they're trying to bankrupt you. Okay? The corrupt cases, when you get really close to a truth, the government swoops in to try to bankrupt you. I am living proof of that. Never in the history of the world ever has there been a sitting leader of a foreign country that has sued a podcaster or a news member, even a journalist in a foreign country for defamation, okay? I am the first. It is because we are getting close to a lot of truth when it comes to Brigitte Macron, okay? And so now what they're doing is they're calling their cronies. Brigitte Macron's hired former federal prosecutors, and she's a firm here. Why? Because the next option is Candace and shut up, we're gonna. These are people that want you to believe they're successful in life organically. No. System is rigged.
I
It's
believe
rigged,
it.
okay? If you get too them and too powerful, usually suddenly a person gets inclined to commit suicide.
Right.
And suddenly there's a hostile takeover of their company, or
A wreck.
random person shoots them. Right? If there's any threat against them, it's either you're smeared, you are bankrupted, or you die in rather mysterious circumstances. So watch this, because you're learning the playbook. Everybody's waking up right now. You need to pay attention to this. This is another one of their mechanisms. Control the courts, and they will get whatever it is they need to get accomplished in the courts, whether it's bankruptcy or a conviction that makes literally no sense, as is going to be the case with Tyler Robinson. They're going to convict him, right? They found their patsy. They're going to make it work, and they're going to keep threatening the rest of us for noticing that nothing makes sense at all. Anyways, further to that point, I had done, and if you have not watched it, you should jump into the Epstein series that we paused because this happened, where we talked about that, the hand of Midas, making these people executives. We're more successful because we're brighter. No, you're more successful because you're more corrupt. You're willing to lie, cheat, steal, and kill, actually, to get whatever it is that you want. And the Jeffrey Epstein story has all of those elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our government, I think actually it was the day that Charlie was killed, quietly voted. We're not going to actually release any Epstein files. Wow, how did they maneuver that? Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been very loud about how she is against that. She has grown increasingly vocal, and she feels the need, as she did a couple of days ago, to publicly clarify
that she is not suicidal. I saw that.
that she is not suicidal.
Right.
She wrote, "I am not suicidal, and I'm one of the happiest and healthiest people that you will meet. I have full faith in God, and Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. As a sinner, I am only saved through his grace and mercy. With that said, if something happens to me, I ask you all to find out which foreign government or powerful people would take heinous actions to stop the information from coming out. Not only about this issue, but because of the truth that I am speaking. People understand what I'm saying. Yes, we are the people, and we understand what you are saying. We understand why speech is considered so dangerous, why the ADL creates a list that features people like Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA and Candace Owens. Why speech is so dangerous is because if it carries truth, it speaks to power. And power is not truth. Power at this moment is a lie. It is a carefully woven lie against all of us. That is why I say
starting with Israel and then Trump, whether people want to believe it or not.
What can you do in your house?
He's in debt to BB9. Oh, Lord.
Put your children in their matrix. Take your kids out of school. These sleeper cells are all across the nation, okay? And we're going to get into this next week. I wanted to make sure that I could get more thorough and show to you the Ukrainian connections that are coming.
Y'all, can I get 5 likes?
Strange, but I guess not so
and then I won't aspirin anymore.
Shootings, trans shootings.
Double tap your screen, the face of your screen. I hit the thumbs up.
The person was scribbling in their notebook recently. What can you do in your household? Well, the first thing you can do is do not put your children in their matrix. Take your kids out of school. These sleeper cells are all across the nation, okay? And we're going to get into this next week. I wanted to make sure that I could get more thorough and show to you the Ukrainian connections that are coming across in this that are very strange, but I guess not so strange when you pay attention to the last shootings, trans shootings that have happened. The Catholic school shooting, the person was scribbling in their notebook recently, the shooter in Cyrillic. What's that about? What's that about? Why do we suddenly have Russian speakers that are involved in these sorts of things? We are looking at a program.
An invasion.
And we're going to speak more about that because you have to understand it is dangerous what's happening right now. It's a dangerous game. And we're playing with dangerous people. And if it ever needed to be said, I am certainly not suicidal. I'm angry. I'm angry at people that are homicidal is really what's happening. And enough is enough. And if we are not brave enough to speak out, we're not brave enough to take that action to begin something as minor as homeschooling our kids, getting out of their system entirely, then our children are going to inherit a world in which the truly evil people have completely wrapped everything, right? They have wrapped everything and they control everything. It's up to us, guys, and I think we're close. So I'm going to leave that at that. Speak about a couple more sponsors before getting into some of your comments and questions that you have. I should have first let you know, we did open another tips line because we are at max capacity. I want to remind you guys, if you have tips, nations across the U.S. So visits is worth it. Since I saw her conviction, I volunteered Owens. All right, you guys. Comment that I want to read from YouTube yesterday. It made me so happy. I also shared it on my Instagram, a little encouragement regarding homeschooling, because that is what I'm pushing for. This user wrote, my sister took her 4-year-old out of school yesterday, literally started homeschooling this morning. I cannot go into detail, but I'll say this. Financially, they will be tight, but she said that it is worth it. Since I saw her conviction, I volunteered myself to be his PE and music teacher as his extracurricular activities. Like they say, it takes a village.
It do take a village.
I also want you to know, network with moms in the area, because like what you're saying, I can do PE. That's what me and another mom did. I was like, let's just figure this out. We know something is wrong, something dangerous is coming. We can all feel it spiritually. And I'm telling you,
I believe that
exist in public schools, private schools. They are there. There is a lot of evil that is happening right now, and I hope if you guys are watching this show,
and they snatching kids. They snatching kids, so I get it.
I felt it spiritually, and then this happened, and I'm looking into things. It's not making sense. None of it makes sense. We're told left versus right, but it's not that. It is all of us versus them. And
I agree.
That we're united, by the way. I saw this when they were attacking Megyn Kelly. I think I showed you yesterday. She said, well, my battle is against the left. And then they showed her a clip of me saying that it's not left or right anymore. And said, well, look, Megyn, now you should attack Candace because she's allied with the left. Yep, I am allied with the left and the right. Any person that is awake and realizes. Slop. Okay?
You gotta become awake. The light bulb has to come on.
At one another and not realizing that control extremists on both sides. They are fostering, I think, those extremists. Is awake and realizes that is slave slop. Okay? They're never going to be able to shake the true power structure if we keep shouting at one another and not real. Of me saying that it's not left or right anymore and said, well, look, Megyn, now you should attack Candace because she's allied with the left. Yep, I am allied with the left and the right. Any person that is awake and realizes that is slave slop. Okay?
Slave slop.
They're never going to be able to shake the true power structure if we keep shouting at one another and not realizing that groups control extremists on both sides.
I agree.
Fostering, I think, those extremists on both sides intentionally. We'll get into more of that.
That intentional manipulation, mind control stuff.
We normal, everyday people, thank you and your team for all the hard work trying to make sense of Charlie's fateful event.
Okay, before I go, I was listening. Was it on here? Did I drop it? To the fellas on Pierce. Yeah, I must have dropped it. Hold on. No, here it is. Let's go.
That's an easy shot, 200 yards. As a sniper, which I am, you pick which nostril.
I hope y'all can hear it.
For me, I mean, it was off it right from the beginning for me. That's an easy shot, 200 yards. As a sniper, which I am, you pick which nostril you want, and I'll put it in it. For me, I mean, it was off it right from the beginning for me. Why did his shirt move the way it did? It was, well, he was obviously wearing body armor and it was deflection. No. Why were people being interviewed saying, yeah, they came from my left to right, from his right to left? The official story sounds like it needs to be investigated, but now, you know, the whole crime scene's gone. They paved over it. Nothing to see here.
The crime scene is gone.
Conspiracy. You would have to get a surgeon on board that had no idea this was coming, and you would have to get the chief medical examiner for the state of Utah to agree to this. This is a murder investigation.
They say that all of that's been replaced.
It's a cesspool.
Everybody was new.
Sewer system. And that's where this
young individual disappeared into.
If you were dismantling this rifle, how long would it take you to do it?
It's going to take a solid 5 minutes, I would guess.
That immediately says to me, well, that's a bit odd. It is a bit odd, right? Tens of millions of people saw the horrific video of Charlie Kirk's assassination, whether they wanted to or not. It's a symptom of a culture in which everything is live streamed and every moment is analysed, debated, and often manipulated by people who no longer trust anything. If you spent any time at all online in the past week, you'll have encountered many conspiracy theories about Kirk's death and so-called evidence that the official story is incomplete. Everyone from Joe Rogan to Candace Owens has speculated with varying degrees of intensity that there's more to this than meets the eye.
I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird shit going on with this.
I know.
First of all, there was that one guy who was the decoy.
The family says that the photo of the young man that is coming up the stairs, which was shared, that blurry image, is definitively not Tyler Robinson. And let me just say, I never thought it looked like him. Neither did you.
All of this is probably quite hard on Kirk's family and friends, but we've learned the hard way about dismissing all theories out of hand, or simply telling people they're not allowed to talk about things we don't like. So we're going to look at these so-called Kirk-spiracies in a bit of detail and ask whether there is actually anything to them. Joining me now is the former US Navy SEAL, Rob O'Neill, Joseph Scott Morgan, the co-host of the Body Bags podcast, and a scholar of applied forensics at Jacksonville State, and the former CIA agent Mike Baker, host of the President's Daily Brief. Welcome to all of you. Rob, welcome back to Uncensored. Always great to have you. Just from a purely technical point of view, there's been a lot of speculation that a young, non-military trained, it appears, 22-year-old man could be at 2 football fields, 175 yards away from Charlie Kirk, and yet kill him apparently so skillfully with one bullet through his neck. Just from a technical point of view, how difficult is that shot to make?
Good to be with you, Pierce. Thanks for having me. That's an easy shot. Even for someone, I mean, they throw the word sniper around almost as much as they throw the word hero around way too often. Anyone with a hunting rifle, a 30-06 like that, that's an easy shot. 200 yards as a sniper, which I am, you pick which nostril you want, and I'll put it in it. So that's easy. The issues, just for me, I mean, it was off right from the beginning for me. Do we not guard rooftops anymore? There's been assassination attempts all over the world. Why aren't we looking at rooftops?
I'm talking about those children.
When I was sent the video with this at the same message where they said Charlie Kirk was just shot. When I watched that horrific video, he was obviously dead before he hit the ground. But the questions immediately started to come to me. That was not an entry wound that we saw. We saw an exit wound. So where'd that bullet come from? You don't bleed like, and I've shot guys closer than the camera was. And an entry wound doesn't look like that. An exit wound does. Why did his shirt move the way it did? When I've shot people, their shirts didn't move like that. And then the initial reaction was, well, he was obviously wearing body armor and it was deflection. 1, no. He wasn't wearing body armor. And 2, it doesn't deflect like that off of body armor. Why was his shirt moving from right to left? Why were people being interviewed saying, yeah, they came from my left to right, from his right to left, immediately shut down? And then did they tear the crime scene down immediately? Just right off the bat, from seeing it, knowing he was dead, saying a lot of this is bad. Not even getting into the soliloquy of text messages that 22-year-olds don't send their trans lover. So immediately, it's just the official story sounds like it needs to be investigated. But now, the whole crime scene's gone. They paved over it. Nothing to see here.
So it's really interesting that you think that, given your extraordinary experience. Obviously, you're the man who shot and killed Osama bin Laden. You're a Navy SEAL for 15 years. You've served in some of the most high-profile missions. So you think there may well be some substance to some of these conspiracy theories?
I'm just saying, especially in my experience with the bin Laden raid, if you don't see it happen, people are going to say it didn't happen. So unfortunately, we're in a state of affairs where if I'm not there, I'm not going to say it did or didn't happen. I'm just saying what jumps out at me with AI right now, with everything that can be made up. If you don't see it firsthand, you don't know what happened. Videos can be made. Immediately it seemed off to me. And plus, as a sniper or a hunter, you don't take a neck shot. You take a neck shot because you missed.
Let me bring in Joseph Scott Morgan. You're a forensics scholar. What do you think of what you just heard there from Rob O'Neill? Yeah, I think it's a fine assessment. One of the problems is that at this point in time, from a medical legal perspective, we don't have any data to go on. All we have are the speculative things that are floating about the internet. There are, by the way, not doing anybody any good here. We have a surgeon who was hands-on there that treated Charlie, and he even made reference, I believe, he said that Charlie was a Superman man of steel. In other words, what he's saying is the round passed through and it didn't strike anybody else, that the round he's implying
no blood.
did in fact embed itself in his body.
Didn't splatter.
Now, what the status of that round is, I don't know. We don't have an autopsy report yet either, which is a huge problem. If you want to speculate on wound tracks and these sorts of things, and there are people out there that are actually saying that there was not an autopsy performed, even though it is required by Utah state law. The state medical examiner is put into that position where they have to do the autopsy. So if this is some kind of grand conspiracy, you would have to get a surgeon on board that had no idea this was coming, and you would have to get the chief medical examiner for the state of Utah to agree to this, which seems very fanciful at the very least.
I don't, the autopsy thing is totally baffling. Why would there not have been one?
Yeah, it's first off, let's stop using the word assassination. That's one of the problems we ran into with Kennedy. From a death investigator's perspective, a forensics guy's perspective, this is a murder investigation. This is a homicide, all right? You politicize it when you say assassination. Let the Utah State Police and let the medical examiner do their job in this particular case. Let them work this case as it is, as a homicide, and draw upon the physical evidence. And the reason we don't have these documents right now is this kid's going to be prosecuted. They're going to take him into court, and they're going to prosecute him, and they're going to seek the death penalty. So don't be shocked if we don't see an autopsy report for some time. And don't be shocked if the Utah State Medical Examiner keeps their mouth shut in here, because there have been other cases where people have run their mouths in advance, and it winds up getting in far more trouble.
But does your gut tell you, Joseph, that this is most likely to have been the shooter we saw on the roof, who is this 22-year-old who's obviously facing the charges of the death penalty?
Yeah. At this point, I have no other reason to believe that it was someone else, some phantom that may have snuck up behind them that had popped off some kind of round from some other type of weapon platform that would have been in his rear. It seems to me, and look, I agree with Rob relative to the round. This is a very easy shot. I'm older than most of you guys. I had to qualify with iron sights at 300 yards in the Army. I'm not a very good shot, but way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, that's even an easy shot with a steel sight. So yeah, I'm not, with a telescopic sight from that range, yeah, I think it'd be a walk in the park.
Let me bring in Mike Baker. Mike, whenever there's a high-profile shooting like this, there's always raging conspiracy theories, and that's been massively exacerbated by social media and by a lot of people probably in the world of debating these things, sometimes acting in deliberate bad faith, where they're just running with the conspiracy theories because it's getting loads of views and making money and so on. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite. We're running a debate here about the conspiracy theories to try and get to some reality. But I certainly don't want to promote stuff if it's outlandish. With all your experience as a former CIA agent, what is your overview of the Charlie Kirk killing?
Yeah, look, things, most of the time, things are as pretty much as simple as they seem. Right? And the other truism here is social media and the internet. I don't want to sound like a Luddite, but pretty much destroys everything it touches. Right? So the social media conspiracy theories started literally within a couple of minutes of people becoming aware that Charlie had been shot. Everything from this is a professional hit, and the unwarranted confidence of people on the internet and in social media to push forward their ideas is astounding. One minute they're a Russian criminologist, one minute they're a pandemic expert, the next minute they're an expert on assassinations. And if you combine that nature of human, tendency along with AI and deep fakes, it's no wonder that you disappear into social media and it's a cesspool. It is a sewer system, and that's where this young individual disappeared into. Right? So the idea, I'm not, again, you always have to be careful. Every investigation has to be built on facts, right? On evidence, on information. And our tendency, because we want an immediate answer, because we've all been trained for that, and everybody's got ADHD, is they don't have the patience. And this was just pointed out. I agree with everything that was just said. You got to give these investigations time to sort themselves out. But that's not what people want. They want an immediate answer, and if you don't fill that void, they're just going to make crap up.
Everything that you've read, though, from more authoritative sources, is there anything ringing alarm bells? I mean, people have been talking about why did he leave the weapon wrapped in a towel? A lot of coverage about him running across the rooftop. Would he be able to disassemble the rifle as fast as he apparently did, throwing it down his pants, jumping off the roof, and so on? Is there anything about any of this which to you rings alarm bells or not?
No. I mean, again, that's it's a simplistic answer. And yes, the investigation's still ongoing. Never say never, right? You never, there's always going to be something that could surprise you. But look, this guy obviously looked at Butler as an example. Rob said it himself. At what point do we look around? You could have scouted that perimeter and without really any formal training and said, I think I see a few problems here. And that's, I would look at this from more of an operational perspective, is how do you prevent the next one? How could you have prevented this? Well, look, it's hindsight, and that's a terrible thing to go on. But at the same time, they should have locked this down a long time ago. Charlie was getting death threats. He talked about them. He shouldn't have been doing events out in the open. You put them inside where you could, lock down the perimeter. You could screen people. You put up metal detectors. You just provide a more secure environment. But again, I don't want to armchair quarterback this thing, but that's where I typically go. I don't disappear down.
Well, I think
alternatives.
Right. I mean, let me bring Rob back in, because you raised a really interesting question, Rob, which is, Donald Trump was nearly assassinated by a young guy around the same age as this shooter on a roof about the same distance from somebody speaking in public. Charlie Kirk was an extremely high-profile conservative, representative of the conservative movement. Going into big open-air areas with roofs everywhere, it does seem quite staggering to me. And it was staggering to me when the Trump one happened, that someone like that could get that close on a flat roof with a clean shot of the President of the United States. And then even more extraordinary, 8 weeks later, somebody hid in a bush at a golf course and nearly killed him there. Again, I'm not a big conspiracy theory person as a rule of thumb, because most of them turn out to be nonsense. But you haven't got to be a conspiracy theorist to think, what is going on here? Yeah, I agree with you. I wasn't with the security team, and I don't want to pass judgment on their decisions that were made, but it's like it almost seemed like in the aftermath too, everyone shifting the blame where we had personal security, where there should have been local cops. Well, the campus security had this. It's like, look, man, give me 5 dudes, tier 1 guys, we'll lock it down. And the first place we're checking is the rooftops. Then we're checking the bushes. You're looking for little stuff like perfect circles, perfect squares, perfect lines don't exist in nature. So you're looking for scopes, you're looking for lines of a barrel, stuff like that. It should be locked down. And then, even going back, speaking of conspiracies, going back to 9/11 with the plane hitting the Pentagon, we have one camera on the most secure area in the world. Why is it now in 2025 we got grainy footages of a dude who might not be the dude? You got people with this technology all over the place. Everyone's got a camera in their hand. Why is it we get one grainy footage of a dude that looks like someone's son? It just doesn't make sense to me. You go back to was Jack Ruby just a great American because he killed Lee Harvey Oswald while he was saying he's a patsy, or was he a patsy? Who's involved and why? And it's, again, and just because I'm talking here next to my phone, the algorithm's listening to me, it's going to start shifting all this conspiracy stuff so I can look at it when I'm scrolling through my phone. So it's very important to realize what's real and isn't real. But it seems to me like, nobody's really been fired or gotten in a lot of trouble for stuff that's happening. Look at the Secret Service detail. Look at the cops that were in that town. What have the counter snipers done? Is there any accountability other than the people who get shot? I mean, at some point there's got to be truth telling and accountability. I'm seeing none of that except conspiracy theories, and then everyone, and myself included, is an online lawyer that has all the answers.
Let me get straight to the point. Gold is up by around 40% this year.
Okay, y'all, I'm about to go. No, it's not. I thought it was over. No, it's not.
Censored is supported by One Skin, a self-care business. Let me bring Joseph back in here. When we look at stories like this, I mean, one of the other aspects is that a lot of people come out, particularly on the left, and my views about this issue are well known. I'm not going to legislate those again, mainly because I'm not American. But I think on this one, many people say, well, obviously, if there was more gun restrictions, gun control, that these young, unhinged people wouldn't get their hands on weaponry. But it seemed here, he just took his grandfather's old rifle. I'm not sure there's any new gun control law you could bring in that could stop that happening. I mean, what do you think of that part of this debate?
No, there's not. What are you going to do? Go to every house and get Papa's old hunting gun? Because that's what this comes down to. We're talking about a Mauser 98 bolt-action 30-06 rifle. Look, I live in the South. I can tell you the lion's share of people have at least a bolt action in their house, all right, and a shotgun. And, what are you going to do? Go door to door and seize all of the weapons? That ain't happening. I can tell you that. Yeah. So the idea that this can be some way interdicted, I think is it's an interesting consideration. But on the other hand, we've got an entire generation that's out there that has little or no help for mental health issues. And I think a lot of this goes back to that. You begin to think about the road this guy was on, and I don't personally know him, but I do know that he's disturbed enough, at least at this point, it appears that he's willing to take out Charlie Kirk in front of hundreds of other people. And by the way, if you just track that round from where he fired from, if he was off just a couple of inches, that round would have been powerful enough to have passed through maybe a couple of people en route. He had a very small window that he was aiming through. If you look at the top of that tarp and then the top of the heads below, that guy had to get that shot off through there. If he had miscalculated in any way, it could have killed other people. So you've got somebody that certainly is not risk averse here. And the big question is, why would that be? Why would this be normalized behavior? Because I got to tell you, it kind of seems like it is sometimes.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Mike, one of the big sort of conspiracy theories raging, Joe Rogan was particularly skeptical about this one, was the role of a guy called George Zinn, somebody who acted irrationally, erratically at the scene, and was initially arrested. Let's listen to what Joe said.
This guy was at 9/11. He was at the Boston bombings.
All the hits.
He called in a fake bomb at another place, and then he did this at this thing. Right after, so somehow or another, this guy has the state of mind that the moment someone gets shot, he yells out and says, I did it, and takes his pants down or something like that. I don't know exactly what he did. Then, ready for this? He gets arrested for child porn right away.
Yep.
Right after this happened?
Oh, right away. He's in jail for child porn. Why is that? Well, now you can't interview him.
So we looked into
But why
this,
child porn?
The bomb threat.
Why is he even
Associated
affiliated?
Press did report on April the 23rd, 2013, that this guy, George Zinn, made a bomb threat at the Utah Marathon shortly after the Boston Marathon. But there's no actual evidence he was also at the Boston Marathon. On the 9/11 suggestion, there's no credible evidence supporting claims that Zinn was present at that either. A lot of his associations seem to have been promoted from pretty crazy accounts on X, not verified reporting. The child pornography arrest did happen. So again, Mike, there's a lot of stuff flying around here, and no one's really sure what to believe. It was a weird moment because I was watching it all at the time, and this guy, George Zinn, is quite well known to people. He's quite notorious. The fact he was there at all just looked very odd, but he seems to have been just a complete red herring. He's like, it's nothing to do with this.
Yeah. Look,
And that's goes back to what we talked about before, right? You've got to build, whether you're an individual who's trying to assess the credibility of something you're reading online, whether you're involved in an investigation, you got to build these things on firm ground, right? And again, if you hear something, it gets repeated, someone clicks on it, they send it to their friends. Next thing you know, you got people saying, yeah, this guy's the Zelig of disasters. He's been showing up at every crisis and disaster, for 20 years. And none of it's built on actual information, actual credible, proven information. The only way, look, I go on about this all the time, but the only line of defense to stop some of the nonsense that's out there is the individual. The individual person has to learn how to be somewhat cynical and curious and to take the time, which is difficult because everybody's busy, take the time to look into the credibility of the crap they're reading before they just send it along or repeat it to somebody else. You've got to do this. I will go back to a couple things that were just said, if I may. This is a mental health crisis. It's not a gun control crisis. So I agree 100%. Our failure in this country is dealing with mental health issues, right? And that's basically at the bottom of all of these recent incidents that we've been seeing. The other thing is, this kid wasn't taking a neck shot. You read these things and go, oh my God, that's a professional shot. This kid got lucky, and nobody wants to think that something this terrible or tragic can happen because his shot, he was probably going center mass or he was going somewhere. He was not saying to himself, I'm going to shoot Charlie Kirk in the neck. And so if you think about the terrible fortune of that happening, nobody wants to think that it's bad luck to create something that causes this much sadness or emotion. It's similar to Kennedy or some of these others where, it lives on because people don't want to think that a world-shattering event could happen because some psycho picks up a gun and gets off a shot.
Rob, you touched on this earlier, but I think one of the more curious aspects of this, which I think needs a lot more answers, are the text messages between the shooter and his trans boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you want to call his trans partner. Because they just read like almost if you were putting stuff into AI of,
right,
how to do text message exchange, it would come out like this, right? It didn't read to me very natural. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I've got 3 adult kids that text me. Not every time I'd like them to, but they do, and it never sounds like that. I can't remember the last time my 22-year-old used a comma. My 18-year-old certainly never has. Yeah. It just doesn't work that way. And it's either AI or when I started reading it, other than, no one's saying rifle, no one's saying my love over and over. My first thought was, this is someone who doesn't speak English as their first language. They're translating it, but it's almost like when it's like sending a dude from South Boston to Georgia and having them fit in. You just sound a little bit different. I can tell you from somewhere else. The texts don't make any sense whatsoever, and the way that they're just put out there.
They don't sound human.
This long.
The texts do not sound human.
Script. That's in a handful of stuff that just doesn't make sense to me anyway. I wasn't there. I need to keep reiterating that. I didn't like that.
We don't say vehicle. We say a car or a ride.
30-06, or how much time you need, how many different tools.
Well, that's really interesting. So let me stop you there. So if you were doing that with all your training, you were one of the most elite guys in special forces in American history. If you were dismantling this precise rifle, how long would it take you to do it?
A 30-06, well, it's going to take several minutes. I can't even remember I grew up, my first rifle was a 30-06 in Montana, and I can't remember the last time I took it apart. I could take the bolt out, clean that off, but in order to break it down to the point where you can even walk with a limp, it's going to take a solid 5 minutes, I would guess, with different. I don't even think you use that type of a screwdriver that he had with his DNA conveniently all over it, because everything you touch has your DNA on it. It's just taking it apart, putting it together, taking a shot, cold bore, by the way, where your scope wasn't on there, taking it back apart, putting it in your pants, climbing down a fence, getting back into the woods, putting it together as you're on the run, wrapping it in towel, then driving 200 miles away
Impossible.
to type to my love the 300 lines of text. It's just, none of it makes sense to me. Again, I'm not conspiring with anybody, and I'm not saying it was something that it's not. And like Mike was saying, it's usually the most obvious thing that happened is what happened. I wish it never happened, but so many things just don't add up to me.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly reasonable, Joseph, for people to ask questions, right? I mean, you don't have to buy into any single conspiracy theory or say that it actually won't end up being exactly, like Mike said, exactly how we think it is, right? And it might well be the case. But Charlie Kirk wasn't just any shooting victim. He was the leader of the young conservative Christian right movement in the United States. That carried with it a lot of fame, a lot of infamy, a lot of acclaim, a lot of people that loved him, people that hated him. There's a clear political element to all this which hasn't fully unraveled yet in terms of exactly how radicalized this shooter was. Did anybody else help him? We don't really know yet, right? There are lots of unanswered questions. I have no problem in this kind of process, particularly with all the disinformation flying around, the obvious stuff that's nonsense, in actually just doing what Rob just did. Go, you know what? This might all be completely how it went down. But for someone like Rob O'Neill to say it would take him 5 minutes to do what I think the police had said was done in like a minute or so, that immediately says to me, well, that's a bit odd. It is a bit odd, right?
Oh, very
How
much
did
so
this
odd.
young kid who hasn't been in the military, wasn't a Navy SEAL, didn't kill Osama bin Laden, how has he managed to do all this with such apparent ease and fire one shot that carries out the purpose that he had, which was to murder Charlie Kirk from nearly 200 yards away? He may have just got incredibly lucky, and he might be incredibly quick at dismantling and putting together his granddad's rifle, but it is all a bit odd.
Yeah, it is. I think that one of the interesting aspects of this, from an investigative perspective, is going back in time and trying to understand if there's anything in his data that's going to indicate when he took notice. I don't know if this is possible. When he took notice that Charlie would be present on campus, did he go there to that particular area and surveil that area? That's a very specific location. How did he get access to that roof without being seen, and also carrying a long arm up there? Did he disassemble it prior to taking it up there? Did he reassemble it? If you look at that one image that's on the roof, you can see there's like evidence markers up there, and it appears to be, at least, the roof is flat, it's covered with gravel. You can see what it looks like, the outline of an individual that is lying in a prone position. I don't know, maybe that's just convenience, maybe that's my lying eyes, I have no idea, but when I see that, that's what I'm thinking. And there's going to be a lot of little points of evidentiary value along the way. Here's something else that we really haven't considered. Unlike, if you think about the Zapruder film all those years ago, you had one POV there. I can tell you this, I know that there were a lot of people out there filming this.
Right.
We have yet to see all of that data from multiple perspectives, all the way around 360 degrees from that specific point. At that moment, no one was expecting this, and as the old adage goes, the camera never blinks. When all of that is compiled as well, that's going to be another piece to this that we don't really have a view of at this point in time. And there's any number of cases out there. We're just coming off the Koberger trial right now that we paid attention to for a long time. We had physical evidence relative to a weapon and blood and all that stuff, but one of the things that really hung this guy was all of the digital data that you can trace back to him and kind of his movements and all this stuff. I think that a lot of this information is going to be sourced from spectators. You've got everybody out, and that's the nature of things. Everybody's got their phone out, they're videotaping or taping, recording. So I think that some of that data is going to come into play here as well.
Yeah, and Mike, it's interesting, isn't it? If you think back to the shooter who tried to kill Donald Trump at that open-air event, we know so little about that person. So little. I mean, that could have been one of the most notorious moments in American history, and yet we still know so little. There seemed to be no, digital trail, which for a kid of that age seems so, early 20s. Really? There's nothing there that's been reported? I mean, again, it's just a bit odd, right? Why do we not know more about that guy?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? You can stack all this up and what Rob said, all those questions. Yeah, and you have to ask all these questions, right? And that's what investigators do that are involved in any case, because again, you don't take anything off the table until the evidence shows otherwise. But you're right. Look at the Las Vegas shooter at the music festival, right? What do we know about that cat? I mean, so it's not uncommon that oftentimes, you think, well, this is the most earth-shattering thing I've seen, today, and then 2 days later, we're all raccoons chasing the next shiny object, and so we forget. And then, again, the law enforcement, particularly at the federal level, hasn't seemed to understand this point, that they need to be, in this day and age, with the way that information flows and how people develop ideas and theories and all this, they need to be as transparent as possible, right? There's some of these things you can't put out there, like as we just said, the cell phone data, right? We're going to know if this kid was sitting up on that roof, that thing would have been pinging, right? So they'll have all that information, and they're using that for the case, right? So they're not releasing that.
They are creating
video
it.
footage they're not releasing because they're building this case, and they want to make sure that it's airtight. But to the degree they can, again, they haven't learned this lesson over quite some time, is they need to be more transparent, because the way that information moves from person to person and people develop ideas and they get distrustful of government for these very reasons, there's an obligation on the part of federal law enforcement in particular to be more transparent as possible.
Rob, finally, do you worry about Donald Trump's safety? Because I do. Because there was a very close assassination attempt where his ear got grazed and people were killed behind him. Then the golf course fiasco, which was so close to him being killed. I mean, that guy was in that bush for 12 hours. One Secret Service agent happened to spot the barrel sticking out of a bush. Otherwise, Trump was up there in 5 minutes and would have been killed. But I still see him appearing in a lot of quite big public things where the security around him immediately in that vicinity seems a little bit perfunctory. Given the climate we now operate in and given what's happened before, do you worry about his security?
Do he worry
I'm not
about
worried
his own
about his security. I know the Secret Service is competent as long as we keep people on the detail that are there for performance alone. And by that, I mean people who are taller than the principal, this being the President of the United States, and people who've done it before. You don't need to pick up a bunch of people from a desk just so eventually they can get promoted. It needs to be competence alone. He's going to have threats out there. They being the Secret Service, know exactly where he's going weeks in advance. They have a different advanced trips. They're going there, talking to the locals, and getting all this stuff secure. Yeah, I don't worry about him right now, but they need to be smart about it. The realization that so far, to include Charlie Kirk, they've run into amateurs who are on rooftops. When they run into a real sniper who's not trying to camouflage what's in front of him, but what's way behind him, to make it almost look like it's two-dimensional to someone looking for him in binoculars or a spotting scope, it could get deadly. But you need to keep your perimeter tight. Start in, work out, and then keep the perimeter to a certain extent. You don't need to give them unlimited fields of access in places that have access. You need to have people there. It's that simple. This is really day one stuff that we're making a lot harder than it needs to be.
Well, that's why I found the golf course one almost more shocking than the first one, actually, because this is where he played golf many Sundays. It was his local golf course in Florida, and the vantage point that the shooter chose was where the media used to go if they wanted to get a good, clean shot, ironically, of Trump playing golf with a camera. Right, so it was almost like doing stuff by numbers. If you were trying to work out where somebody might try and kill him on his golf course, you would choose that very area of bushes. And yet, that guy was allowed to be there for 12 hours. I still find that really shocking.
Well, even when they're tracking him, and it's almost like there was a movie, I think, Clear and Present Danger, where they're showing sniper training, and they grabbed like a quarter pounder with cheese wrapper. He had lunch here. They were doing that with this dude in Florida. He must have eaten here, and he's like, "Come on, guys, what? On what planet are you doing security?" It's like, and the most obvious spot, put a dude there. Put a
Ignore
guy or
all
girl
the
there,
noise.
whoever's
Examine
working,
the
and watch it.
optics of the prime
Go to the principal
player,
spot. Where would I
his
be
wife,
if I was taking a
and
shot at this person? Where would I
actress.
go? It's not. I mean, we're really talking easy stuff here. For some reason, we like to make everything a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I agree. Gentlemen, fascinating conversation. I really appreciate it.
Okay, y'all, going to sleep. Finally, I had to get this out the way to get ready for the Diddy sentencing in a few hours. I'll see y'all later on. Have a good one. Sleep tight. Don't let the Trump bug bite. Good night. Please hit the like button. Bye.